Welcome to Talk Design Podcast, the space where creativity meets conversation. I'm Adrian Ramsey, your host, and as someone deeply entrenched in the world of design, I'm thrilled to introduce you to the minds that inspire me in the hope that they will spark something special within you too. From a design past crafting women's swimwear to pushing the boundaries of performance sportswear, from mountaineering to international yachting, to implementing systematic innovation solutions that transcend boundaries in aerospace industry. My heart remains rooted in architecture, and exploring the emotional tapestry woven by built spaces is my fascination. My journey in design has been what can only be described as a life of design. I want to thank you for lending me your ears. I'm eager to embark on this next episode together. My guest on Talk Design today is Stephen Collette. Stephen is a sustainable building consultant. Now, that's a big, long title. What he does is he works with people to make their buildings and their designs healthier for them to live in, healthier for the planet to have them on it, and overall explores and speaks and educates on everything that could be about sustainability and the building science and the building biology and how that comes together. He is also a podcast host. That podcast is, correct me if I'm wrong, Capstone, which is the Canadian Association of Heritage Professionals. Now, Stephen is in Toronto. We say that loosely. He's somewhere near Toronto. Stephen, welcome to the show, man. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Adrian. I'm delighted to be here, my friend. I really am. This is great.
Yeah, we've had a really lovely start chat before actually recording as well, which is really cool. And we've been around the world pretty much. I mean, your wife took you around the world, and we've been around the world with those things and talk kids, talk building, talk other people that we know. I want to kick off with, first of all, tell everybody how I met you, which is through Paula Baker Laporte, who Prescriptions for a Healthy House. And I know you've got a copy there too, where Stephen's actually got his work in this book as well. And one of the things that I see that's happening is we're going to get, hopefully, sooner rather than later, this collision of building science, building technologies, and building biology come together. And I know from what we've just talked about, taking the heritage part and putting those together is really important about how all that falls into one place and then how that makes people feel. Before we start on that part, at some point you were some kid. How did you end up fascinated enough with this field to want to be a part of it? What happened?
Well, that's a good question because it definitely didn't come naturally. There's a lot of my career has not been a straight path by any stretch. My wife and I used to be an aircraft mechanic.
Right.
Yeah. I used to, crawl around inside fuel tanks on large aircraft, which is a really stupid idea.
Only for your health.
Yeah, only for your. I had the immense pleasure. My wife and I got to backpack around the world as we were talking about, and I realized I got to see just amazing, beautiful buildings, but also people living in buildings differently, than we do in my North American consumerist culture. So people were living differently, they were building differently. There were buildings that were like, oh my goodness, this is like, 700 years old and it's a rental. Or whatever. They're just like, oh, I just cut this down from the field and built my own house. Like the perceptions of what buildings are to people and how we live in them, and how we work and carry on in them. It really changed my thinking.
Mhm.
I love buildings. I was interested in buildings. I didn't think there was a career path for me because I couldn't draw very well. That's why, I was more in the mechanicals than because I couldn't be an architect.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of like, wow, those are really cool. Like there's different ideas about buildings, and I think that really sparked the initial interest in the built environment and seeing beautiful buildings and realizing again with a newer country, a younger country like Canada, not having the history that I had seen in other places around the world.
When you say they live differently, and certainly like, you say a 700-year-old building, we might find a 700-year-old tree, or we'd certainly find a cave, but we wouldn't find too many 700-year-old buildings, if any, or even the remnants of in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, probably not, North America, probably not. But yeah, Europe has that history. And I just had I've traveled in Europe lots, but I had a fascinating thing that happened to me just last year with my daughter. So she went on a big solo, my 22-year-old, she went on a big solo European journey.
Yep.
And in doing that, because she knows my interest in buildings and architecture and sense of place, she would send me pictures of those things. So she was trying to experience it through my eyes, but I got to experience it through her eyes. And her sense of how towns and villages and these places of community are shaped by, first of all, nature, but secondly, by architecture.
Yeah, totally.
And then you see the collision of importance to that. You can go into the wilderness and see beautiful, beautiful things, but you'll do it more solo. Whereas when you come into community again, then it's somewhat been left up to the humans to make it, to create the spaces that we will gather in those places. I suppose the spaces of purpose would be a way of putting it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that, because my oldest daughter, same age,
got
back from a study abroad in Sweden, and actually absolutely was sending me pictures of churches and beautiful buildings and beautiful squares as well. So that's absolutely hilarious.
It is, isn't it? Like, what the weird part is we've traveled plenty with her before, but her actually maybe just going on, my poor old dad, I'll make a connection with the bugger, but doing it through that and then getting to experience it because of that. I found it fascinating. And I look at that thing and I go, now, in Australia, you've got to if you design a building, it's meant to last for a minimum of 50 years. And I go, they didn't build things to last 50 years. They built them to last forever. And, forever's maybe a little longer than maybe, but there's buildings that are thousands of years old and
Still there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm going to circle back to your one question, because I think it's relevant. You talked about the idea of spaces in nature.
Yeah.
And then how do we create spaces in community? And we are in community in nature. It's just a different community, right? And I think we miss that. Like, I think as our city-centric 21st century, we miss that is community. So I wanted to highlight that, because I think that's a powerful way to move into the built environment with that mindset, because there are places and spaces where we experience transcendence, just deep, meaningful personal experiences within the built environment, whether they be with community, such as in fantastically designed plazas and piazzas, or intimate restaurants, or a magnificent church or mosque, right? Like, so it's about what's the science of trying to get from that majestic Uluru, or amazing forest, or an amazing seawall that we experience. How do we translate that into the built environment? I'm not a designer. I'm the nerd trying to figure out the bricks and the details of the science, of course, but there is that underlying piece of harmonious design, and I think across cultures and across time, we've attempted to do that, and we forget about it in modern times.
Yeah, I find this fascinating because, as you say, like in a forest, there's a community, and it's not necessarily a community of humans. It may be, but I do this process with my clients, which I call land whispering, this is going to go sideways here. Let's go. Which is to really sit and observe and be present with the land that you're on, like, and the surrounding land. It's a bit like, you drive into, say, a town, and the first thing you do is you start looking at the built structures, and then you start to get an idea of the language of them and the fabric of them and all those things. And then you get a sense of space or place from that, and size and dimension and all those things.
Orientation. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And then you go, we're going to build this in this place, and it's either of it or it's opposed to it. It's either harmonious or it's a full stop at the end of it. It's an explanation mark. And when we get a piece of land that's like, beautiful piece of land, maybe with beautiful views, maybe not, whatever, we also make that same decision. Are we going to work with it, or are we going to put it on it? And
plow everything over and
yeah,
put the box.
yeah. And so then one of the things that those old places like in Europe, and certainly even in, old places in Australia and New Zealand, America, wherever, they were built more with the land because they didn't have the ability to push the land around as much. It took a lot of shoveling to shift that stuff. Whereas now we just put a dozer across it and we alter it that way, in big amounts. And I go, with that, their decision making was based around their knowledge, of survival, as well as the beauty of the place, or the topography of the place. I spent a couple of years living in Bath in England, and beautiful town, falling down on those hillsides, down to the river, and it's been altered a lot, obviously, over all those years. But as you drive into the valley where it sits and all those things, it's very much of its place. And scale-wise, didn't have the technology to overbuild and heighten stuff. So scale-wise, it kind of fits within its landscape. And people fall in love with it because energetically, that land's got some magic. There were druids sitting there at some point. I don't know. So,
but it's true. But it's also the idea of working with the land versus fighting it. But it's when you say like of the land, modern times we'll use the term picturesque. A picturesque church up on the hill, a beautiful row of houses in Copenhagen, along the canal. What we're seeing are those buildings. And why are they still here? Why haven't we bulldozed them and put up a tower? Because there's something innate and inherent about their design that reflects value, but timeless values, not just the cultural values of the day, but we see it just more like through time, that like I still want to go see that building. Today, 300 years later, we were in Stockholm, we were in Copenhagen, we go see the old district because it speaks to us. It's a human scale. And that, is something that we have overpowered with our modern equipment. We don't have to build a human scale. We can build a 40-foot tower, a 40-story tower.
Yeah.
That's not human scale.
No.
Right? These buildings are human scale. Even when we look at grand cathedrals, Notre Dame in Paris, it's a human scale of magnificence, right? But there's still that, down the street or whatever, there's that 4-story, row with commercial retail on upstairs. That's human scale. It's walkable. It's navigable. The streets, and we really lose the idea of that in modern design, which is why I'm drawn to heritage buildings and heritage districts, because they speak, and the buildings have learned to adopt and adapt to the modern times, and we still value them. That's really important, was we still value, there's an inherent value, and that's a heritage building. It doesn't mean that it's capital H.
Yes.
Heritage. Yes. It doesn't have to be. It can be because you like it. Because my neighbors and I all have the same kind of houses, and it's just, it feels good. Heritage has a broader meaning.
I really like that. I really like that. It takes me kind of into a bunch of feelings that I have about things. First of all, that scale size has an intimacy to it. As opposed to, say, being in New York or even Toronto. Like big buildings. Funniest story about Toronto. I've got to tell it because it was just hilarious. I get into Toronto, first time I've ever been there. I arrive, it's 10 o'clock at night or something at the airport. I get in a taxi. I go into town. I'm staying in some hotel in the town. The hotel's in a very tall building, and it's a bank in the bottom of the building, and the hotel's somewhere up there. I walk through what's almost the foyer of a bank to get to elevators. I start on the 35th floor or something. I don't know whether it was that high, but it was a fair way up. And some idiot designer, anyway, we'll come to him in a minute, or her. The building, I walk in, there's a reception, the lift opens, I go in, and they're like, oh, yes, Mr. Ramsey, da 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 da. Yes, your room's on the, I don't know, 3 floors above this one, whatever it was. Go back in the lift and we'll take you up. And I do that. I get in, I go down the hallway, I swipe my card, I get into the room, and the room is built with 2 levels and 3 pieces. So it starts on this level that you walk in on, goes up where there's a platform for a bed, and then it drops down on the other side where there is a down to the windows. So the windows are like the full height, but the bed's on a 1-step platform right across the room, end to end of the room. So bathrooms, you walk in, bathrooms on your left, and anyway, I'd go in there. I'm pretty tired. I can't remember where I'd come from. I think from Hong Kong or somewhere. Pretty tired. I walk in, and I'm like, oh shit, where do I put my bag? Worked out that. And I'm just like, I just want to go to bed. I don't really care about anything else. Just want to go to bed. So I get into bed and I'm out to it, and the fire alarm goes off.
Oh dear.
Oh, by the way, it was snowing outside when I arrived. And I'm like, this isn't good. This isn't good. There's a fire alarm going off. I'm 37 stories in the air. I'm going to have to do the stairs. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. What am I going to do? Okay, so I had lots of pillows on the bed, or for the bed. So I quickly rolled out of bed, pushed all the pillows in a big pile around the bed, ruffled all the things, then slid myself all the way back in under the covers completely, and went, if it's going to burn, it's going to burn. Yeah. I'm just going to go down with it. They banged on my door. They opened my door, checked there was no one in the room, and left the room again.
Oh dear.
And I never did the stairs or went down. And then they apologized to us that it was a false alarm. But I made the decision, nah, too tired. I'm just not going to do it. But that little bloody step in the room, later on in the night, I got up and went to the toilet, fell down the step, came back, fell up the step. That was the designer. Fell up the step, up back in the bed. So just bad design, but yeah, interesting.
How could we possibly put the worst design of a side split house into this hotel apartment? How could we do that? Oh, we can do it.
I've got an idea. But yes, Toronto, like, big tall buildings and stuff. And there's something magnificent about being in a town where you do get these incredible towers and all the rest. It's kind of like being in a forest where we get really big trees, like it's not the same.
Kauri trees in northern New Zealand, right?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. And that part of it, I've been reading, well, probably for the best part of a year now, off and on. I keep going back through this book called Humanized by Thomas Heatherwick and Heatherwick Studio in England. And just about the fact that when we are around nature, how we get fed by it. And then also when we're around buildings, we get fed by them. And all his studies are around this thing of when we make an emotional, so we're talking more than human-sized buildings, we need to engage people within the first 3 levels to 4 levels of that building to bring that in. And it shifts people's cognitive responses if we do that well. So we can go tall, but we've still got to humanize this bottom part where the people are, where it's, I suppose, touchable, where it's within our thing. And that's design consciousness.
Psychology of space, right? The psychology of space is how do we make a place feel warm, feel welcoming, feel snug, comfortable, safe. All these kind of, that's psychology of space. it's so overlooked. And again, I think, like, when we look at older buildings, there's a comfort within them because they've been used for 100,
Yeah.
200, 300, 400 years.
Yeah.
But again, they were designed. And I'm not saying that, like, 300 years ago they were sitting around, okay, well, we really need to make sure Adrian feels comfortable in this room. Like, we're gonna do, no, they weren't doing that. But there was a sense of human scale and a humanization because it was built by humans, not by equipment.
And
And it,
the materials,
um,
until we made big pieces of steel or large pieces of concrete and the ability to form those up and things, until then, and lift them as well.
yeah.
Until then, we were kind of stuck with what's the biggest tree? That's as long as the room can be. Or we get a post in the middle, or the width, like those
And
are things.
materials of the area, right? Like,
Yeah.
they didn't come from away.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't ship them on a boat around the ocean. Well, they're seeing Stonehenge. Some of the stones may have come from farther away than they thought. But the
Yeah.
point being that, like, it was vernacular in the sense that this is of this place,
So what is
whether
that?
it's a grand building or not.
What does that do for humans from that building biology point of view and the psychology point of view? What does it do for humans when it is that? What's your
Well,
take on that?
well, there's a level of biophilia for sure, just
Hmm.
that connection to feeling nature and seeing it expressed within the building. I think, again, more, I'm going to say hand hewn versus 4x8 sheet of drywall,
Hmm.
right? That tactile experience of older buildings. There's not I live in a 1910 house. There's
Right.
not a street, there's not a, 90-degree corner in my house. That's part of the character of it. I think there's a feeling to it that is tactile, that looking at our nature. There's no such thing as 4x8. There's no such thing as flat. There's no such thing as
Hmm.
one color. Like, I'm looking at the
Yeah.
trees of my,
Yeah.
right? You know, Same maple tree, but there's like 800 shades of green there.
Yeah.
So I think we get to that point where it becomes silly, where we stick on lick and stick stone, where we have fake wood floors made out of laminate, like high gloss photocopied papered, like,
Yeah.
flooring, because we crave it. There is something biological. It's like experiencing a real fire and watching it on the TV. It's absurdity. Our bodies crave the natural interaction, and natural materials from modern buildings, natural buildings, or from traditional heritage buildings, help meet the cravings that biologically we need to be well.
Yeah. Right. That's a big statement, isn't it? Like, it's so true. But like, I think the only thing that has put I want to say, a awareness into this, and I don't think the conversation's anywhere near over or anywhere near as elevated as it needs to be, is COVID, and where we had all these people that got locked down.
Yep.
In them getting locked down, we saw what they craved most.
Yeah.
We realized that the homes that we had weren't designed for how we probably really would like to live.
Yeah. And they're not as
I,
flexible as we thought they were.
no, no, they're not great schoolrooms. And I joke that, the cats are the ones that went under the most stress because suddenly these other people were coming into their home all day long. These people usually just slept here and ate here and then went away. What the hell are they doing here all day? Like, this is my
Get
home.
off my couch.
Yeah, exactly. This is my home. Get out of my space. That part of it, I very much get, that where what the psychological damage of everybody being locked down is just being worked through now as well. And their removal of themselves from, or the removal of them from nature, from being able to touch nature or experience nature. I know I did quite a few interviews and talks during COVID, and I was saying to people, your biggest couple of things that you're going to really want to, if you're in an apartment, focus on is transitioning from one space to another. So transitioning from a work brain to a home brain, doing those things, getting dressed, doing those, and then get online and order some plants.
Totally.
Go plant crazy, to have something to take care of, something to dust, something to talk to, something that moves in the wind, that's real, that's in your house. Develop a friendship with some plants, and this will also help you through this removal of yourself from nature or from the day-to-day that you used to have when you walked outside.
Yeah. We're really lucky. We live in, a small village, and within like 100 paces, I'm away from houses. I'm really lucky, right? But COVID showed us that our homes don't work. That our homes are unhealthy. That our homes are not even flexible, and you never would have thought of using, the dining room table as something other than the dining room table, because you bought it and you got the matching chairs and place settings and everything, and but we go back, like, I remember as a kid going to, aunties and uncles that lived on a farm, and the kitchen table was a workspace
for everything.
making dinner, right? Like you would cut, vegetables on the dining room table. And it's just like, even that simple example is so foreign to us that we have like demarcations and like compartmentalizations that we can't, and when we blow that up, we kind of like, oh, I can't possibly reuse that building. It was used for X. We need to knock it down and build another one, because it's the exact same mentality of just this compartmentalization that we see the built environment, and it's really tearing down these constructs. So to be like, oh, that old factory actually has amazing bones and we can totally use it for something else, or that old whatever it was, reusing, repurposing, regenerating old buildings. Like, we have to do that, and we have to shape this, which is, we have these compartmentalization struggles, yet we're okay with renovations. But typically, again, they're compartmental. Oh, I need another bathroom because I couldn't possibly share the bathroom, or I need another. Now I need two offices in the house, or I need whatever. It's all this changing and seeing spaces differently. The COVID, I think, could help people see the opportunities, but it's still cultural.
Yeah, I think we're still running the wrong way. I thought that the cost increases of COVID would shift people's perceptions. The cost of building, sorry, would shift people's perceptions about what their hierarchy of needs was.
Yeah.
It didn't. It just made them want more.
No, still
They
watching
didn't.
the design shows on TV, just thinking I just need a new coat of paint and some stuff from Wayfair and I'll be okay.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting that, like, I go, first of all, can we build smaller? Can we build more flexibly? And can we create more community in our homes, rather than separation? We do need points of separation, but can we create more community? That point that you made about, the kitchen table years ago, maybe 20 or 25 years ago, my wife and I were in Europe, and we were in Tuscany, and we were up in the hills of Tuscany around where all the truffles and stuff are. And with that, we're in this beautiful villa, and we had some other friends that were there, and they had like a outdoor graveled, on the side of a hill, an outdoor graveled patio area, which was big enough to hang out on, but not so oversized that you could fit 300 people on it. But there was sort of like, I think at one point there might have been 6 of us in their house, maybe 8 actually, but we could all hang out there, but we were close then. And it did have a table and chairs out there. And then in the kitchen, you walked around, because the building was quite compartmentalized. That's how they built, keep them warm in the winter and stuff. In the kitchen, there was a big kitchen table that you walked around. And it was like all of a sudden, this group of, call us young people, were all seated around doing things that grandparents would have done, like, doing beans together and, you know,
Sure.
cutting stuff up on that table, and there was benches as well, but the focus was around this one central table. And that's where everything happened. And I kind of go, where do we build that community space in our own homes? We have a dining table over there. We don't have it in the kitchen, and people fall in love with the farmhouse kitchen and big communal. You think of it like island benches and kitchens where people can come and stand and sit, and somebody can be in the theatre part of making things on one side, or several people, and other people can be there conversing and all the rest. Again, we're trying to create, they're seeking community. They're seeking connection.
So we actually did that in our kitchen when we renovated our house 10 years ago. We actually made a central island for as our kitchen. So we have exterior walls and cupboards,
Yeah.
but the one cupboard's like only 12 inches. Like we didn't, it's
Yeah.
not a usable space, and the other's just a little breakfast nook. But we have the sink, we have the stove, we have our workspace, and we have stools and a counter so the kids can sit there and do homework. But because in kitchen, this is a great example of biologically inappropriate design.
Mm.
You have your back to everyone has their back to everyone in a kitchen. Like it's an absolutely terrible non-communal design, right? And like you said, sitting around, shucking beans.
Yeah.
It's mad. Like you're just like that's a memory that you have because it speaks to us on a level
Yep. Yep.
that we just like. I don't experience this regularly. You know, like something's wrong with our designs. It stands out. Yeah.
I find that so fascinating. Like I remember in that kitchen, we bought big globe artichokes and we were peeling, the stems where we're taking just things like that. And before we cooked them, and everybody was around, we were making up like an olive oil mayonnaise thing to dip those artichoke pieces in, and just so many pieces of it that set up that learning as well. I'm watching somebody else doing something, I'm learning from them. They're watching me do something, or we're discussing which way we'd like it done. Just that shift.
That's the culture. That's real culture.
Mm,
Right? And that's real culture working in the built environment. And our kitchens, and we could take any, but our
yeah,
kitchen's such a great because you're over there cutting beans with your head down in the counter in the
yeah.
cupboards here and doing your thing. And you're like, what did you say? What's going, like there's no community there.
Mm,
And it's just lost. Right. And to the point where you're like, well, it's just beep boop boop, put it in the microwave.
yeah,
Like I
yeah,
don't need, right? Like there's the food culture right there is in that table.
yeah. And that extends out into the way our houses are, which extends out into the way our communities are. And it just keeps, yeah, I saw something a little while ago. There was this picture of people in the 1970s, say, on the tube in London, and they all had their newspapers out. So nobody
Yeah.
could see anybody, newspapers were out. And then it showed them, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and everybody's got a mobile phone in their hand. So our habits haven't changed. In that the difference is we didn't go home and walk around with the newspaper, or we didn't walk around the office with the newspaper where we were working, reading it as we were walking around. Now we're doing this with devices, and we're shifting that thing away again. Anyway, that's another.
Our buildings define our culture. They
Mm,
absolutely do. And the most important buildings are typically the tallest.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Castle,
yeah,
church, tower of money, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
institutions, industry. But our culture defines our buildings define our culture at a smaller scale. When we think about a 1940s neighborhood in Canada, that could be like a two-story brownstone, they're called. So two-story
yeah.
brick, porch up front, laneway in the back. Rarely happens now with the
Mhm,
garage and the
mhm.
laneway, right? Well, the porches, right? Having a porch, a front porch where you can see your neighbors, where you can see kids playing. right? Young kids playing, and everyone's seeing everybody. Cars are in the back. Older kids get that exploration concept to be able to, like, climb a tree or climb onto the roof of a garage when no one's
Mhm.
looking, and
Mhm.
like those growth kind of experiences. Think of a front porch, pick any construction development, residential development. Is there a front porch? Yeah, it's
Eh,
about like
yeah.
this. All it's designed is to hold an Amazon package.
Yeah, exactly. For the guy to drop something off. And it's actually usually shielded from the neighbors or anybody's other view as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because we're in the backyard, surrounded by the 8-foot fence,
yeah.
hunkered down. So there is no community. You drive into the giant orifice.
Yeah.
There's
Door
no.
comes down. We don't, yeah, exactly. It's interesting that whole thing around the laneway concept. And even nowadays that, they're infilling and putting houses in the back of those other houses and creating laneways. Those first places, the places on the main streets are getting maybe some carports and things like that that are filling it up. There's and I do a series for Austin, Texas every year for the AIA, Austin, Texas, for their homes tour. And with that, there's certain streets in Austin that are community streets, where they walk. And
Yeah.
pretty much if you buy in there, and you don't, have a home that is, or sorry, you choose to build or renovate your home so that it doesn't face the road or whatever, the homeowners association will get you before you get to do it. But they will deliberately, the architects and the people who go and live in these streets deliberately will be creating open porches to the front so they can meet their neighbors, see their neighbors, be a part of that community, invite them over for tea, coffee, chat, wine, whatever it is, just onto the porch. They don't need to come into their home, but there's
No,
this,
it's a process, right? It's a
yeah,
level, an
yeah.
access, level of access, and they call new urbanism. No, no, it's not. It's actually been around for 100 years or so. Like, just walk your streets.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
it's
absolutely.
part of what
No,
we've,
it's that layer, right? That porch is a layer of invitation where and it's this access to our spaces, right?
yeah,
And it's a safe place. You can come close. Maybe I might invite you on the porch. You're not in my house, like, and then and these whole access pieces are so fascinating that, and then there's, like, well, the front parlor,
mhm,
it's just got a TV in it, but and you had to work really hard to get upstairs, right? You had to be
yeah,
a certain level of comfort and closeness to reach the inner sanctums of. And churches are the same way. They set them up the exact same way.
yeah, right. These levels of transition that take you in. So
Yeah.
when you look at heritage buildings, because you do, you obviously see these rhythms that these buildings are designed around, like you said just then, right through to that front parlor to, and each piece. Why or where are we missing that in our modern design aesthetic? I get that we drive in, go underground or into a box that transitions into another box. And so we don't actually have to see anybody, talk to anybody, because we're so concerned for our safety. But we'll post it all on Facebook or Instagram anyway. Yeah, there's that. What should we or what could we be doing from a heritage point of view that we're not doing? Yeah, I don't know.
I,
You
I
tell
think
me.
just listening. I think it is, it's a chicken and egg. Is
Yeah.
it our culture? Is it our buildings? Is it our culture? Is it our buildings? But name 5 places you feel good in. 5 built environment places that you feel good in. They could be in your house if you're really lucky, or your apartment. But they could be, a church, an old library, a bookstore, just whatever. And spend that time. Like, well, what is it? Oh, well, it's straw bale or it's straw clay, like our friend Paula's,
Yeah.
designs, or
Yeah.
it's an old place, or it's just got this cool rock in the garden. I don't know. I just like the rock. The plaza. I can watch the people, but sit under this tree and feel safe. So we don't ask those questions. We don't ask, like, what do you want your building to feel like when it's built or designed, right? It's like, well, what's the square footage and what's it going to cost per square foot? right? And building biology, we look at what's the health per square foot, what's the social impact per square, what's the factory workers impact, all these questions that we've just monetized it to a point and packaged it and mechanized it that we're so separated from buildings that have value, right? And the worst thing is, like, you could do the opposite. Name places you feel terrible. You're like, I don't want to stay here.
Yeah.
I don't want to be
Yeah.
here. Typically, that's your laundry room. Yeah. But
Yeah.
in all my consulting, low income housing sucks. It's the worst, typically, the worst designs on the planet. And you're like, you know what? This is the demographic that could use a leg up, people. Give them something beautiful, give them something creative. And so in Austria or Germany, I'm gonna get it wrong. Hundertwasser. It was an artist collective that designed. I have no idea how this ever happened. They designed low-income housing, and it's basically creative art folk, women and men, just absolutely brilliant. Created these. Everything's crooked. There's not a window that matches on the facade.
Yeah.
It's a glorious place. When we think about how could we help ourselves as a culture, as a society, we help the people that need the help, right? I don't need the bling bling and the cool on the rich people. They're doing okay.
Yeah.
But if we can help, like, everyone, you're like, I'm okay living here. This is a really nice place. I feel good about myself. I don't come in, those low income housing places and affordable housing, and they're usually really tough. Super tight budgets, and you're just like, this is a miserable place. How is that? How am I raising my family in that? That's going to have an impact culturally.
It's the same as fast food.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
There's no
The analogy's right there, doesn't it? It really does. It's like, yep, fill it up with sugar, fill it up with, whatever, fats, sugar. Don't worry about the health of it. Make it look reasonable, maybe. The picture of the Big Mac and the actual thing that comes in the box, they don't look anything alike, But that kind of that thing with housing, I totally get what you're saying. Again, not just from the low income point of view, but from even the high income point of view, there is so much in the high income point of view, there is so much status, perceived status in the way certain things are, that building the piece or asking to design the piece of status as opposed to the thing that really makes them feel something. It brings out their emotion and nurtures it. And then you wrap that with materiality, and then you suddenly create real magic, like one is that it visually and spatially supports, but then you put the materiality around that, and you start to change how you really not just think you live, but how you really do live. It starts to nurture you.
It's about the endorphin hit, right? Just like hitting the buy button. It's straight up endorphin hits. It's got nothing to do with deep wellness. Like, does this decision make me feel better? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I, those kind of deep, real happiness,
contentment that I do a process with my clients called the emotional floor plan, and it is about just helping them, guiding them to discover those points, even if it's only a few of them, but what are those points of connection that make them feel really good? And then if we can wrap the right materiality into that, whether they're aware or not aware of the fact that we've done it, but real timbers and real pieces of stone or things that are real, things that
people will touch, right? If you got a real piece
they'll
of timber,
reach out for it.
They will touch it. But you have never ever had a client, because they don't exist, who would be like, wow, that is the most amazing photocopy of timber floor. I'm going to touch it. Right? That doesn't happen for a reason,
Well, the same with a tree and the bark on it, the same with a leaf on a plant. You reach out for it. It draws you to it. Yeah, I find that piece really fascinating. There was something else that we talked about before we recorded, which was the fact that we were talking about the energy in the earth, and I want you to expand on this because you kind of, flippantly put into the conversation, yeah, well, that's why they built churches there, and it had such a strong energy, the power of it. That was how they converted people. So dig into that.
It is. There has always been sacred places in nature. All cultures have them. All traditional cultures have had them, and those places have always been recognized for hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of years. Certainly, when we look at the indigenous peoples of
Yeah.
New Zealand, Australia, Canada, like tens of thousands of years. And they didn't build anything on them. That was never, yeah, I might put a stone or, a circle or something, but these are spaces. And certainly in Europe, the early European Christians, when trying to convert everyone to Christianity, they built churches, and they would build churches where people were already congregating, which happened to be places of power. And that's been done by culture over culture, culture over culture around the world. I'm familiar with the ones in Europe, but they have been done. The Egyptians apparently did it. There's just other cultures in Asia that did the same. But it was the idea, it was like, if we're going to get them to come to our place, we're going to put our place on top of their place, and they're absolutely going to come, and that's how we're going to convert them. And it's not always the case. So it's not like you can go to like any old church or mosque and it's a place of power.
Yeah.
But there are places that the architecture, speaks to us, but there are places that feel different, immensely sensitive to them all. I'm not, but absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
I find that part of it really fascinating, and you said earlier also, that there in the forest there is a community, or in any space in nature, there's a community as well, and just getting a header or a handle on that as well. Those things like where do the birds fly? What happens as the nocturnal animals go to sleep in the I don't know what they call it. There is a name for it, but the animals that are up during the day. What I'm trying to think of what the name of it
Regular
is.
animals.
Yeah, regular, yeah, like us. Yeah, those as one set retreats, the other set comes in, and you only see this in daylight and sunset. That's when you see it happen, is in daylight and sunset, and that's when you hear it happen, because often you can't see it. You hear it happen, and you feel the difference, as those air temperatures shift and things. And one set, that is that thing of being in touch with the community of it as well. I know when I'm looking at bare land with people, I'm certainly there in both those times, asleep, awake times, as it transitions, to see what happens, where it happens, what it shifts in the environment. And then you've got just the pure energy lines that are running through the earth and how they feel. Some pieces you walk around, some pieces you go, oh, that's good. And I was talking about this with John Banter, I think it was. I was talking to him with it, or else it was Paula Baker Laporte, and we're talking about, dogs won't go on certain bits of land; they avoid it. Otherwise, they'll find other parts. Kids gravitate to certain areas to play, and often that might be built by, there may be trees and that gives some shelter or whatever. But also they go to places of interest. They don't stay in places where it's uncomfortable, where the energy's uncomfortable. We said, Uluru. I remember going, yeah, what's this big rock all about? Da 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 da. Got there and went, oh, that's what it's about, and being blown away by that.
These are all the sciences. These are all, Vastu,
Yeah,
Feng Shui.
right.
All cultures, building cultures, have had some sort of science. They have absolutely been watered down to like the woo-woo tinfoil, like
Yeah, get
let's
the hat on.
put your plant in the corner and say this three times and you're fine. They all started off as some form of science of how to build better, how, sacred geometry out of Europe. Like these were all just ideas of just how to do better, how to be more in tune with what's going on around you. And we just lose it because time. We've lost to the years. We've lost to translation. Like in feng shui, you're supposed to, put the door to, I forget what it is. Doesn't matter. North side, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, for all the good energy to come in. No, actually, well, if you go back to where this happened, oh, you put it on that side so that the wind off the mountain didn't like freeze you out of the house. Like it was
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
these were all sciences. And some still carry on as a science if you can find the right people. We've always had building science. Modern building science, you're not going to get that kind of teaching in university or college on how to
Yeah.
build better, but it exists. And just like we're learning now with, modern science and indigenous science, you're like, oh, they actually
They
know
actually did this.
everything, And so we can have two of these with walking together. And I think again, it just takes us back to different values, the values that we crave out of these older buildings, out of these natural buildings, out of these traditional buildings. We crave the values of what it feels like in there simply because our modern construction lacks it wholeheartedly. And that sucks.
It does. And that probably is, the point of how do we get back to being able to have those things at an affordable price, and what are those elements that we need to focus on first? And I certainly think from a design perspective, there's so many pieces around size, and then also about transition, and also about connection. And, just like you said, in your kitchen, rather than having your back to everybody, where can you be forward facing? Like just simple things like that. Where can you create?
Making a detail wall in your bedroom. If your bedroom's where you
Yeah.
can put some money into, right? Like
Yeah.
make a detail wall. Use some clay plaster on your wall to
Mhm.
give it text tactile and color,
Yeah.
and a natural and the characteristics of the clay can have some positive. Put some natural, just raw wood and finish it with linseed oil, totally natural and just like have that wood for your trim around doors, windows. Like that's what I have because we
Mhm.
love it. They can be really small pieces. Like I said, just bring a plant in and, especially for tenants, this is really hard. And in apartments, there's limits, but, maybe listen, buy one piece of quality furniture. Like, your episode, you were talking to the great furniture
Yeah.
maker.
Yeah.
Just
So,
one piece of furniture. And it can be used, it can
yeah.
be old, but just like, oh, all right, that feels good. That's not from like, some Walmart or whatever. Like there's quality there. So it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Hmm.
There's no
Hmm.
finish line. I think the
Hmm.
finish line is you're probably going to live outside, and I don't think we want to get there.
Do you know that's true? You
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
Finish line, you're in a hole in the ground or scattered in the sea. One of the things with that is I often ask people, I'll do it with you. What's your favorite? I'll do it with you first, and then let's go from there. In your own home, what's your most favorite space? Like, what's the space that is, yeah, where you feel your best?
Yeah, I actually feel my best right here at my desk. And the reason is I designed it that way when we did the addition to our house. I wanted an office. I have a huge window. It's
Mhm.
it's 4 by 4 or 5 by 5. Like it's a big window right here above you. So if my eyes are drifting, it's because I'm watching the squirrels out in the backyard, right? I can see my wife's gardens and the veggies and the flowers. And so for me, I gain so much value out of just being able to ground myself to just be like, oh, watch the trees for a minute. Hopefully the
Yep.
next question Adrian asks isn't so hard. But I find this connection allows me to be here
Yep.
and create training content for people to teach them, to consult with them, to because I'm just okay, this is good. So I don't feel drained when I leave. I don't feel like, oh, I've been working in a cubicle or,
Mhm.
we could have switched this around and my desk could have been, the window behind me, right?
Mhm.
And it would be a completely different experience. So I like
It's
work.
it's really interesting, eh? But okay, so I'm going to ask you for one emotional word that sums that place up, that space that you're in now, your office or your studio. What
Yeah.
what's one emotional word that sums it up
Oh, that's a great
for you?
for me. I think I feel good. It just feels good. That's the feeling is I'm okay being here. You know, our bedroom's an amazing place, you know, like it's a sanctuary, it's got a different feel, you know, trying to create the vibe, the feel, whatever we want with each of the rooms by using natural materials and viewscapes where possible on new design. We were very lucky with new design for the addition. The
Mhm.
existing house, we have a beautiful porch out back. Maybe I should
Mhm.
change my answer. Beautiful porch out back. It's on the, we have a walkout basement, so it's almost like, you know, it's on the main floor, but we're surrounded by trees. It's like a tree house,
Mhm.
you know, and it's a beautiful space. And you just, except for the
So,
mosquitoes.
so yes, if being bitten. So if this feels good where you are now,
Yeah.
what does the porch feel like out back?
Oh, relaxing.
Mm.
Really, really relaxing. Although I have a somewhat similar view,
Mm.
it's down a level of, you know, this is where, oh, I can read something. I can just listen to music. I can just listen to the trees. So it's calming for sure. Yeah, relaxing.
I like this. So here's an interesting thing, and this is what I was going to tell you before. So if we were digging even deeper into this, this would be the forming of our emotional floor plan.
Yeah.
And you feel good in your office, partly because you love to educate, partly because you love to express what you do and give. We know that. We could dig into all that, and you would find the the points around it. And you designed it with this in mind. And then when you go to the porch, it's actually relaxing. It's actually you don't have to give. You can renew, you can refresh, you can. I reckon if I went back through all the podcasts, I should get AI to do this for me at some point. I reckon that 60% of people, when I ask them this question, the space is not in the home. It's external to the house. It's their yard, it's their back porch, it's
Right.
their covered porch, it's their screened porch. It's these spaces where they can feel the wind on them. They can feel the temperature changes. They can hear, you said, listen to the trees. You can hear that noise of the wind in the trees. You can hear the bird song. You can hear that community of animals, squirrels, whatever. You hear them as well as sense them, and they sense you in their space as well. And you can relax with all that because you've got the security of the house behind you.
Yeah.
And then, so when we're looking for that, like and you said it, your bedroom has another feel, that all these different points, you designed it in. You actually were consciously thinking through these things as to what they would bring you. I think that what happens so often when we're doing it with people, they've never asked themselves the questions before.
No, totally not. I want it blue. I want it green. I want,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I want it to look like this. I want it to look like that. And that piece of, when you went back, I wrote it down here, name 5 places you feel good in. And then name some that you don't as well. So you get the contrast is a
Yeah.
really powerful thing. It's like I say, ask the land what it wants. Sit on it, talk to
Yeah.
it, listen to it.
Yeah.
Get conscious with it. It's probably not going to go, Adrian, I think that you should build a white tower. How much money have they got? Make it taller.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that part of it. It's the land's asking you more often than not to consider it,
Mhm.
and it will start to deliver to you where matters as well. So yeah, I find this whole kind of piece of the conversation fascinating. I want to jump
Especially from a
to
building scientist, right? You're not really
yeah.
expecting sort of the building nerd to be talking about this, but you know, the more time you spend learning about buildings, you learn about all aspects of it. It
Mm,
just all of this comes together. It's all about better buildings that are more resilient, that are healthier for planet, people, that
yeah.
people want to take care of.
Mhm.
So it'll be here for another 100, 200, 300 years, all
Mhm.
tied together.
Mhm. It is, isn't it? It's so tied together. Can you tell people how you work and what you how you can bring benefit to them for them working with you.
Well, I do a variety of consulting in person and online, remote. I deliver faith communities and heritage existing buildings, sort of sustainable audits.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, right.
we call them a green audit. We look at energy because, well, I'm English, Irish, French, and Scotch, so I have all the cheap covered.
How can we pay the least? Yeah.
It's important, and it's
Absolutely.
but we look at air quality and food and water and waste and maintenance and marketing and rental and
Mhm.
heritage and bums and seats, or if that's right. How do we make everything sustainable?
Mhm.
When we look at a building, if I can make that sustainable, but you're still over here doing this, that's just a waste of time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So and especially with faith communities because they're volunteer run
Mhm.
typically. How do we get everybody involved? And then they take that home. And the same translates to existing heritage buildings, small, medium size. I just created a climate disaster preparedness audit. And so this is brand new. It's ASTM came out with this guide on how to prepare commercial buildings for climate disasters because we need to, right?
Yeah, right.
Whether that be wildfires, smoke,
Yeah.
extreme heat, cold, rain, snow, whatever. We need to prepare buildings. So I was one of the first, I think, to kind of put that into a process where I can help, again, faith communities, because I've done a lot of work over the years with faith communities because they're
Mhm.
beautiful buildings. But again, for heritage and existing buildings and small commercial buildings, how to better prepare. So we're in the one sense, a green out's about how do we minimize
Yep.
our impact on the planet and how do we minimize our impact from the planet
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
disaster, climate disaster preparedness? So kind of looking at it through two different lenses. And I do teaching. So I teach through the Building Biology Institute with Paula Baker Laporte, whom I
Mhm.
love dearly.
Mhm.
And I have
Don't we
immense
all?
respect. Yeah. And I teach, so teaching, creating content for people who want to learn more about their buildings, want to empower their people in their buildings to learn more on any aspect of sustainability. We've just touched on a couple, but just
Yeah.
anything. I've
Yeah.
been at this long enough and again, multifaceted. So that's kind of what I try to do to keep myself busy. Otherwise, my wife will put me to work gardening.
Yeah, yeah, you got to be careful. You got to look busy. Well, I think, like, and the value of that is you are actually affecting every human life that comes into touch with those spaces. And if somebody was building a home, would they come to you and say, give us an overview of what we could do better here? And then would architects get that, and building designers? And then certainly when you get to community spaces, like you said, like that that part of it is another level of you're taking care of a lot of different people's needs that are across a broader spectrum of things. It's
Yeah,
fa
I'm trying to, whenever I'm consulting or teaching, it's about trying to figure out what that person needs. Because the
Mm,
definition of green or sustainable is going to be different for
mhm,
everybody.
mhm.
I was American Standard of Canada's green building consultant for a while.
Right.
Which they were launching the dual flush toilet in Canada, and they needed someone to sort of make sure they weren't talking out of their wrong side of their mouth. And they came to it absolutely for money.
Yeah,
And they were clear about it. And
yeah.
they're like, we need to get this market right. And so, my claim to fame is there was a brochure out there of my face beside dual flush toilets, of course, which my wife reminds me periodically.
Yeah.
But they came to sustainability from that,
Yep.
which is fine. Other people will come for this, other health, right? Building biology.
Hmm.
I teach with
Hmm.
the Institute, lots of courses, seminars with the Institute. So people are, this is the priority, that's a priority. Great. Let's have that conversation. So
Mm.
what I can find, in heritage is sustainable, right? If it's still standing, it's still sustainable. So it's all the same. So it's just like, what are your priorities? Just like you're going to ask, you're going to poke, you're going to prod, okay, this is your priority. Cool. Let's talk about that. Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
multifaceted jewel. Let's turn it around a little and see what works. And not all of it that's going to resonate with people, right? It's not going to resonate with everybody, and that's okay too. Because if I can get that person to do this and that person to do that, and they can move forward, I don't care how much.
Yeah.
Like I said, same thing.
Just
There's not a goal.
just move forward. Yeah, just move forward. Just be in movement, going towards the right values.
Then we're making a difference in people's lives and in the planet.
Yeah,
It's great.
absolutely. And I think that that's the responsibility that, as certainly somebody who designs houses and anybody who designs anything for humans, whether it be furniture, like you were saying about Paul with his tables and the Philadelphia table company, that there's an intention built into everything he's doing. And there's an intention that's built into everything that I'm designing, and you're the same. There's an intention, but that intention is to make the life of the people around it better. And that in turn, very selfishly, means that the world out there gets a little bit better for me as well every time that happens. Your podcast or the podcast you host, tell people, how do they find that?
We're on all your favorite podcast platforms. It is called Capstone. That's CAHP. And it's a Canadian Association of Heritage Professionals. And it's me interviewing wonderful people in the heritage industry, all different types, architects, engineers, planners, people working in the trades, just to talk about sustainability, talk about heritage, talk about what gets them excited. Because it is actually a really interesting field, and you're not going to find your guidance counselor in high school talking about it whatsoever. But it's actually a huge field, and we need trades, and we need more people in it. We need more women in it. We need more people of diversity, everything in it, and there's opportunities for people. And so it's a Canadian centric, obviously. But there's something people can take home no matter where they're listening to.
I was about to say that, like, don't think that if you're not in Canada, don't listen. It doesn't matter where you are. The education is in the journey of understanding how different people view it and finding your own points in that. I think it's a fabulous opportunity for people to go, what is sustainability? How does it relate? And an expert like yourself, surrounded by other experts and people who are on the learning journey. I think that's a really valuable one. So I would encourage listeners, jump over there. We will obviously put a link to it in our show notes as well, so that people can jump over and hear you unravel and construct different pieces of that sustainability conversation. It's fascinating. And, Stephen, thank you so much for all your time and sharing with us your favorite spaces as well. And some just great insights, that one of the big ones that stands out to me was picturesque, was a word I wrote down as we were talking. And I often talk to people about, they may have a view or whatever. I say, be a photographer. Where's your viewpoint? What's the point of this view? Where are we looking to? What's that bringing us? What brings us what emotion at that point? And that picturesque thing, making it picturesque, putting the value of art into it is so important. So I really like that. And then I liked everything, but that was, a big one. Name 5 places you feel good in. And I think that is super important. Everybody should try and do that. Whenever they feel good, they should put a little tick beside, center yourself at that point. Ground yourself, center yourself, and go, what is it that makes me feel good here? I love doing this with pictures when people say, oh, yes, I want my house to look like this. I want this. And I'm like, which bit? Is it the floor? Is it the wall? Is it the window? Is it all of it? And I go, okay, let's break it down. Let's look at what those factors are. And that what's the piece that's actually making you feel good? And what are the combinations that are making you? They're not even feeling it. They're imagining it. It's in their brain that it feels good. And so getting to people's real experiences, like you were saying about your back porch. And I would love to break up your whole home into the emotional floor plan with you and your wife, and then go, okay, so there's so much that's baked in, and you can do it with homes. But those things, really fascinating. Hunter Vasa, I think you said, was the creative community about with design and for low cost and stuff like that, and it sounds like it's a playground space. I'd encourage people to go and look at that as well, because I'm going to. So Stephen, thank you so much, man. What a treat. And we've been trying to do this for how long? A year.
You and I have been at this a while, Adrian, and I'm so grateful for
I am
you.
so grateful for you going, to hell with whatever else I'm trying to do. I'm going to do this now. I'm looking forward to catching up somewhere on this planet and experiencing the real energy of being together.
I look forward to it as well, my friend. Thanks.
Cheers, Matt. Thanks so much for all your time. And we will be in touch soon. Thank you for tuning into our conversation. I hope it left you both informed and inspired. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen. And please don't hesitate to share your design thoughts with me. It's always a joy to hear from you. If you're like me and crave a deeper dive into design thinking, coupled with a love for travel and adventure, consider one of my architectural adventures. Join me and some of my wonderful design friends and embark on a journey of a lifetime. Apply for an unforgettable design experience at adrianramsey.com. With our clients spanning the globe, I firmly believe behind every great project are great people. If you're a great person and seeking to turn your dream into a reality, I'd be honored to design your home with you. Why not join the ranks of our exceptional clients and let's make your heart sing? Reach out to me at studio@ardesignhouse.com. That's studio@ardesignhouse.com, and let's get a conversation going and make your heart sing.